Right, hello. So I'm not going to hold this in front of the camera or stream, but let's just get that in focus as well as it will focus. There we go. So yeah, that's pretty impressive. Well, very impressive. The video on it comes out tomorrow, but that's a Gen 2 plus night vision unit that I bought from Hype. That's there. So yeah, that's, as you can see, it actually focuses quite well, even at close range for sort of like where I'm sitting there, which is pretty damn good for a regular sort of thing, you know, holding it up to the webcam. So there we go. If you want to see how dark the room is, like that. So, you know, there's still obviously blue light and that in this room, but there's still pretty you know, impressive when you sort of think about, you know, differences. But as always with these night visions, if you want to see really how impressive it is, let me just focus it correctly. Right, so here we go. So if you want to see the main difference between, you know, how good one these night visions are, let's look over there with the webcam. Hopefully I've got it in the right direction. So you can see the cupboards there with stuff inside it. If I put that up to the camera and can angle it right, you can see inside no problem. So yeah, that's obviously the main difference. As I said, bought it from Hype, so he sold it me. So yeah, good thing. I'll put the ceiling light, not the ceiling light, but I'll put the other light on now. All right, okay, Nine. How are you? And how's the Czech Republic at the moment? I don't know how you're doing with Corona over there, but obviously it's not good here. I'll flick the light on now. The video of it's out tomorrow, but yeah. So if you're interested in the tube inside it, I'll read out the actual name of it. It's a Chinese NVT tube inside that one. So I think he put it in some new housing for me. But obviously, yeah, it's set up so you can run it off of a helmet. It's got the infrared on there if you wanted to use an infrared. So if I turn it that way, it turns on with the IR. Obviously, that way is just on with the night vision. If you're using it in a regular room, you can have it with the cap on. You know, this cap. You know, the ones which they do not open in daylight. So yeah, you can obviously use it inside of the cap on, but there's not really any point if you've got the ceiling light on. Yeah, 2 Plus is really good. I could have bought a Gen 3 from him as well, PC Dragon, but really the difference between Gen 2 Plus and Gen 3 isn't that big, I don't think, for the price difference. Right, Richard? All right, Heitzler. So yeah, I'll definitely be using this out quite a bit at night because the Gen 2 IM101 I have is really nice, but you can't really walk about and use that in the sense of, you know, because holding it up to your eye and walking about because it's a magnified sort of scope. But because this one's obviously one that you can helmet mount or sort of have on, you know, the headband or whatever, it's a lot more practical because you can just walk about with it or just have it in like a little breast pocket and, you know, just pull it out and use it. He's asked me not to disclose the price because he did it at mates rates. I do, Stuart, but I'm not going to be doing it yet. I'm going to let it get a bit longer first. But yeah, as I said, I bought it from Hype, but he said, you know, don't disclose the price because he did it for me because obviously I do videos and that, and we sent each other stuff before for, you know, like a better price and he'd offer. All right, thank you for reminding me to put slow mode on. I will put slow mode on now, so thank you for the reminder. Now, yeah, I'm glad they put slow mode back on, so that's the reason slow mode exists, so people can't spam the chat. No, I don't. If I'm doing it, I do it completely bold. I don't see the point in using a guard, personally. Standard price French marker, I'd assume, would be closer to £2,000 and £1,000. Let me just have a look. If I put in Gen 2 Plus night vision into Google, I just want to see if there's any shop selling various Gen 2 units and what sort of you know, prices they want. One Gen 2 Plus unit coming up on Google is £1,630. Another Gen 2 Plus is £1,750. Another Gen 2 Plus is 1,580. So yeah, I'd say standard price would probably be 1.5 to 2 grand if you were paying standard prices, which I didn't. Yeah, and Gen 3 is even more expensive. But I said it was done for me on mates rates, but I've been asked not to disclose the price because, you know. All right, how did you get on with it, Stuart? But yeah, I will cut my hair probably in about February, so in a couple of weeks. But yeah, it's just that at the moment I don't know when everything's going back to normal. At the moment, I trim, you know, the beard more often to make sure I get a respirator fit. All right, Mike. Yeah, you all right? Sorry I missed your stream the other night. It was sod's law. As soon as I finished my stream, I was going to watch yours. Bart messaged me and said, "Do you want to play some Red Dead?" And I was like, "All right then." If I just flick this off again, Mike, just to demonstrate it. So obviously, it's not going to look that impressive here, at least, because, you know, I'm in the room. So let me just put this on with the first of all without the IR. Which way is that? Is that on with IR? Or is that? Yeah. No, this is on without the IR. Right. So obviously, my face isn't going to look that impressive to it, is it? Because there's still a fair bit of light there. So there's that. But yeah, where it's really impressive, let me put it over here and focus it. All right, so out there. Right, so if I get my webcam, you can't see much over there at all, obviously. If I put the night vision in front, there you go. See everything inside the cupboard? Take that away. Bring it back. Take it away. Yeah, see, that's quite well focused in there. You can see all the bags and that in the cupboard. Take it away. Bring it back again, just so you can see the difference. Take it away. But yeah. But yeah, there we go. So yeah, really, really happy with this. As I said, there's a video coming out on it tomorrow. I don't actually have the World War II baby gas mask. Do you mean like the one that was with the pump on, so the mothers could pump the air in if they forgot the baby suffocated to death? Do you mean that one? Right. Okay, Rob, I'll go back over this because a few people have asked this and we went over it already. But right, the actual tube in it, if you're interested in the technical name of the actual night vision tube that's in it, is a NNVT Chinese tube, used normally in Gen 2 Plus units. It's a factory, basically, reject tube because of a couple of little blemishes on it, which you'd probably struggle to see on the webcam. But basically, when you're looking through your eye, it looks like there's a couple of grainy bits on it, you know, like almost like dead pixels. So it meant it was a rejected tube. So I got it at a very reduced price, but in general, probably 1.5 to 2 grand is the normal sort of brand new price for a tube like that. I'm not going to look at a light with night vision on. You do know that damages night vision. Actually, tell you what, if you're trying on purpose to get me to break my night vision, you can fuck right off. But yeah, that's a good way. I mean, because this is a Gen 2 Plus, it auto gates, but you still don't look at lights on purpose with night vision. I'm glad you enjoyed the videos, Brew Militaria. So Orna says he bought a GP5 with a hose filter, came with the original bag and the instructions in Czech or Polish inside the mask. There is a red stamp that says, I don't know what that stamp means. Are you sure it's not a Czech or Polish, like OM14 or whatever they're called, like the Shum 41 military variant? Well, bear in mind, I think M1C Austin, it's a tube that would either be used in military spec stuff or they would sell it to certain companies who then rebrand it, I think is. As in like the old Vietnam era ones, Iron Man, no. They're not very good in terms of how much they amplify light. They're either Gen 1 or Gen 1 Plus, aren't they? I mean, they're bloody cool things, but yeah, the size and weight of them for like what they do, you know, as technology goes forwards, they become a bit useless. Yeah, I think that's because that's the standard kind of like common style housing. It's not exactly the same as my Pulsar. It's a similar thing. But yeah, I think it's because US military ones or whatever for the last sort of 10, 20 years have had that style housing. So I think most companies copy it. But yeah, I do know what you mean by the pulsar. It is a similar design, you know, where you have the objective lens and the, you know, have one and you have the thing. But if you want to get cheap night vision M1C, Austin, I would recommend you just get like £100 or $100 digital night vision scope, because for that money they're not too bad, especially if you're going to use an IR flashlight with them. M62. I know the M61 Renzo, as in the Finnish M61, and I know the German M62 and M65. But are you saying this is either a Swedish or a Finnish one? If so, I don't know it. Yeah, I've got a Pulsar Challenger. They're good, Francisco. But let tell you what. Let me go get my Pulsar, because if it's got a battery in it, I can do a Gen 1 Plus versus Gen 2 Plus comparison right here. Right. Oh, you're not going to get cheap Gen 2, are you? That's the point, unless you find somebody selling it second-hand or a damaged model. Right, let me get the cap off of this one and focused, and then I'll give you a good example of like Gen 1 versus Gen 2 sort of stuff. Okay? Right, so... Right. Okay, so let's do a Gen 1 versus Gen 2 comparison, like a direct comparison then. I'll get the caps off of both of them and both of them turned on. Okay. Right, so we're going to do the comparison, right, of that cupboard again. So if I turn that around, so that's the webcam with no night vision in front, and here's the Pulsar Challenger. So that's a Gen 1 Plus unit. So you can see some of the stuff in there, but it's pretty dark and grainy, right? But you can see some of the stuff in the cupboard compared to seeing like nothing without it. Let's bring up my Gen 2 Plus, sorry, and that looks like that. So higher resolution, and you can see much better. Right. I'm just banning anybody that says like shine a light into your NVG, because you're fucking retards. But yeah. The point is that Gen 1 is all right, Gen 1 Plus is all right, but when you get into Gen 2, you then start going, how did I ever put up with that? But yeah, they're not bad, are they, pulsars? They're quite nice in like the size of it. But yeah, in terms of overall like use, you know, Gen 2 plus Gen 3 all the way, I'd say. But you know, that's just technology getting better, isn't it? But I mean, in terms of size and weight and everything for these, did I turn that off? Yeah. They're pretty similar sized units. You know, the Pulse is actually a bit bigger, but yeah, like I said, they're good. It's just the you know, like the Pulsar I said is Gen 1 Plus. But it depends what you want them for. If you just want them to go out at night and you're using the IR illuminator, a Gen 1 Plus is all you need. Oh, M1C Austin says, actually, I tried a digital one. I didn't like the Force 2x magnification it came with. It made walking around with it impossible. And the ones I know of some sort. I think you can get digital ones without magnification, but yeah, you don't want to walk around with a magnified one. It's the same reason, like I said, I've got the IM101, which I love to bits, but that's like a spotting scope for like distant stuff. You don't want to use it for trying to walk around with. Well, if there are physical surplus stores near you, Brumilitaria, go there, because you can actually see how good condition the item's in. But the problem is, most surplus stores sadly don't exist anymore. All right, we've definitely for the mods got some weirdos on tonight. So if you see anybody acting weird, just block them as usual. But the oldest one I own, Atom, is probably my 1870s Martini Henry or 1880s Martini Henry, whenever it's from. But so essentially a rifle that is now about 140 years old. All right, cool. JJ, I've got another DP2 coming from Ukraine, so I will find out if it has the control source in, but you probably know about that, don't you? I probably already mentioned it to you. But yeah, SSH-68 helmet's cool. I don't actually have an SSH-68. I've got some of the others, but that's a quite conical one, isn't it? That the Soviets used for quite a long period. There's a really cool Kevlar version of that they did for quite a limited time as like a stopgap helmet between like transitioning from those to Kevlar helmets. Like before they went for like one of their more modern Kevlar designs, they actually basically had that style helmet, but a Kevlar cone version. Yeah, I imagine reservists still use it and a lot of countries still use it. It's also similar, isn't it, to this other one I've got in this room somewhere. This one, the Romanian one, is pretty similar to it. This is the Romanian one that they used in the Cold War that's based off of a Dutch helmet from like World War II. But yeah, this is quite a similar conical one. Yeah, let me have a look. SSH-68 helmet. Let me just look up this one. Romanian. Is this an M70 something helmet it's called, I think? M73 helmet. Let's have a look at just two on an image next to each other. Yeah, it's very, very similar, actually, this one, to the Soviet SSH-68, saying that, looking at the angles of them. I'd say, if anything, the SSH-68 isn't quite as conical as this one. But yeah, those are the sort of cone-shaped helmets, aren't they? Only if he puts something in front of it, Rob, so it doesn't get damaged, because I've seen plenty of pictures of good night vision units people have destroyed from BBs hitting them. It's the 68N, is it? Which is the Kevlar style one. But yeah, the regular 68 isn't, is it? It's just a steel pot. Yeah, who knows, Justin Vapor? All of it makes no sense. Like where they find those women for going on a walk and then they receded it like they should have done because they hadn't done anything wrong. Right. How basic do you want to go, JJ? Very, very basic. Less than £100 or dollars, but it's very primitive. Gen 1. Oh, if you just want a Gen 1 unit, you might be able to get a surplus thing like a Cyclops for less than $100. No, I don't have a German pickle help. Well, again, Mixmaster, it depends what he's after. Because, yes, a Gen 2 Plus unit is going to cost you something like that unless you get it at a good price. But for some people, they don't need a military Gen 2 Plus. Some people are happy to walk around with an IR flashlight on and literally use a Gen 1. Sadly, Talise, I've seen a lot of people that don't do that, at least judging by the amount of videos I've seen filmed from night vision where you can see cracks in the screens where BBs have hit them. I've also seen ones where people have obviously had IR type things strobed into them and like burnt out sections of the image. I've got a Flare TK Scout, which is a very basic thermal unit. This is like bottom of the barrel thermal. Well, there's actually probably worse thermal units than this, but see, yeah. So I've got a very basic thermal unit, but this is let me just take the ring off so you can see it a bit better with the webcam. But yeah, that's a very basic thermal unit. I'll put on the thermal mode everybody likes. The there we go. If I tilt that up slightly. But yeah. So I've got a very basic thermal unit, but Depends what you want them for. The resolution on this isn't good enough to be able to work out what stuff is at a distance. Yeah, it's good, isn't it, the Scout? I mean, like I said, it's very basic, but if you get one for an all right price, they're quite fun to play with. Favourite Cold War helmet? The Yugoslavian one, whatever the name of it was. I've forgotten. But the Yugoslavian... The one that's like a Yugo-style helmet. I've got one in the room somewhere. Hang on. This one. That's my favourite of all the Cold War helmets, I'd say, just because it's the good compromise between being a good quality steel, having a good liner, you know, not being too bulky. It's basically just a style helm, you know, type shape, but not as bulky. Don't use a GP5 of the original filter again. A cool Soviet gas mask collector. That's one of those masks I've sort of wanted for a while, but never wanted to spend too much on it. You literally, I think so. Not. I think Soviet gas mask collector actually did a video on his channel, didn't you? How to do that? Or was that on your old channel? But yeah, the Yugo one's quite nice, just because the thing I like is the strap system, just because you can use it with any mask easily. I've demonstrated this before, but let me do it again, just because it's interesting. Right. So, let's get this guy out, because we all know and like it. I'll have to look that one up, French maker, but I've not had any like desire to get another thermal unit, you know, at the moment. I think it's one of those things where if you wait a few years between units, you'll probably see massive step ups for the price. But you know, with like flares and a lot of those, it's you know, it's again what, because I got this Scout, I think like £200 off RRP when I bought it, because it was one with a damaged box. It was brand new, you know, and it had the thing of if the unit doesn't work, you can send it back. But it was like what they call grade B stock or whatever, because the cardboard box it was in was dented, so that knocked 200 quid off the price. So you know, I sometimes do that when I buy goods like that. I look for like you know, knock down in price items because it's like damaged packaging on them. But, okay, so the Yugo helmet, the reason I like it so much, or the liner, is I actually should have thought about this with the filter, shouldn't I, first? Whoops. But right, so wrong way round. Hang on. So you have your helmet on with your strap. Let's just put that up there a minute. Oh, you can't put the helmet on before the gas mask, can you? Right, this was a bad mask to demonstrate it with, actually. But yeah, so I'll have to do it this way around, but I'll try and show you why I like this one. So basically, you can just do this with it on the loosest setting, then you do that, and it fits with most masks, and then you can obviously just put the filter back on. But yeah, I'm from the UK or England, but yeah, that's the reason I like this one, because you don't have to put a separate strap on it to use it with a mask. Saying that, you might actually be able to do it with the yeah, saying that, you can actually do it without loosening the strap fully. I've still got nearly all the helmets. I don't think I've sold any of my helmets. I've seen both. 28 days is much better. Yeah, will do, Andy. I think it's rehoused. Let me show you. But I think Hype rehoused it for me before selling it, because I think he just bought the tube and then did a housing. You'd have to ask him when he's on the stream. Let me flick. Oh, well, tell you what, it's off. So this is the housing he's put it in, but that's not the housing for the tube, I don't think, originally. So it's one that's got the IR sort of thing on it. It's a similar sort of design to the Pulsar one. That's just, I think, like I said, the housing he's put it in so I can helmet mount it or whatever else. But the actual image, if I just turn that off again, that's the mode without IR on. Right, is that focused? Right, that's the sort of, actual image through it. It's got some blems on the tube, hence why it was a factory reject tube. If I just focus that to the cupboard again, I'll be able to show you, obviously how impressive the actual unit is. I've got a video coming out on it tomorrow. But there you go. That's what it sees in a dark room. Much better than obviously my Gen 1 Plus units. I haven't done a direct comparison though with that and the IM101 I bought off you yet, so I don't know which of those is better in that regard. Obviously, this is a lot smaller than the 101. Yeah, it's quite a nice housing. As I said, it's similar to the sort of housing that's on the Pulsar in terms of how everything's set up. But yeah, it's quite a nice compact size for what it is. Because as I said, I've got the IM101, but the problem is you can't really walk around with that in front of your face. So when I was offered the chance of buying a factory reject Gen 2 Plus, I was quite happy to do it. Do I have a Shim 1? No, I don't have a Shim 1. Well, that's the thing, ACM. That's what I was saying about those Yugo helmets, is the strap system on them. I wish more helmets had copied that strap system. Because, the idea is basically that, again, it doesn't matter how fat or thin your chin is, or if you have a mask on or off. The idea is that, yeah, you just loosen it fully, put it on, then tighten it, All right, Dan. I mean, if you had Gen 0 random Hungarian, can't you just use a really bright IR light? At some point, I might be getting sent, like I said, it's not a definite thing, but I might be getting sent at some point some PNV 57As to play about with. Right, it's not actually in the housing, but it's a Chinese, what's the name of it? A Chinese NVT tube inside. Again, Cyclopses are pretty good, JJ. The thing is with the Cyclops, if I get this drawer open, the Cyclops is quite dependent on the camera lens you put on it. So the Cyclops, whatever the Soviet name for it is quite dependent on, like I was saying, the actual camera. Trying to think of the word for it, like obviously you can tell this is a Gen 1 unit. Let me just make sure I'm letting the most amount of light in possible with this. You can definitely get camera, better camera things for it, but yeah, like obviously you can tell this is nowhere near as good as the other units I was showing. But the thing I do like about this is it's quite dependent on that bit, as opposed to But the Cyclops isn't a bad unit, whatever the proper name for it is, but right, I'm getting rid of the guy that keeps talking weird stuff about night vision. As said, it's up to somebody themselves what the hell they want to buy with their money. Don't dictate to other people what they can and can't buy. Also, Andy might be able to confirm this in the chat, but I know Hype's talked about this before, but I have a feeling Gen 3s don't last as long as Gen 2 units, do they? Because of some weird thing. But again, it's up to people what they want to buy with their money. Don't tell people, oh, you can't buy a Gen 1 unit. If somebody wants to buy a Gen 1 unit, they're perfectly entitled to buy a Gen 1 unit. That's the thing. It's don't try and force people, because there's a lot of people that would never spend that money on night vision, but might be quite happy just to mess about with a really cheap piece of Soviet surplus or something. Which particular one, French maker? I'm pretty sure all Gen 2 and Gen 3 units have microchannels, don't they? I mean, auto gating and stuff like that's probably only on Gen 2 Plus and Gen 3s. But again, not all Gen 3. Isn't it like some US Gen 3s aren't that good again? Like, again, I don't know all the details, but I know people have bought Gen 3s and then just ended up selling them really quickly because they didn't get on with them, compared to Gen 2 Pluses. Isn't it like the French or somebody at the moment who makes like the best night vision that is like kind of Gen 3 Plus? Again, I don't have those units, so I'm probably talking a lot of shit right now. But like I was saying, a lot of just the idea of you can't get good night vision unless you buy a Gen 3 is kind of a bullshit thing. It's what are you going to use it for, firstly? Because if somebody's not a soldier, it's completely up to them. Yeah. Oh, that's the thing, Talise. That's what I'm saying. But I can't remember what question was first asked. But the Pulsar's a Gen Plus. I think the Pulsar's pretty good for what it is. JJ, as said, when I was shining this just now at that cupboard, you could still see better than the human eye can. It depends on your budget, doesn't it? And if you can get a Pulsar cheaper than their retail price, then they're definitely worth it. Because I think this one was like 150 quid less than what Pulsars normally cost when I bought this one. But it's really hard to kind of say, because what do you want it for, JJ? Like the people who are saying about, is this unit good, is this unit bad, what do you want it for? If you just want to go on a walk at night, and you're not worried about other people seeing you, and you just want to use an infrared, essentially, flashlight or something, even Gen 0 would probably be fine for that. Yeah, well, exactly, inductive tea cake. Dicking around at night, a pulsar would be fine for that, because the thing is, the pulsar's good with IR illumination. Why do you regret getting a Gen 3 then, Tillis, in your own words? Just because, like I was saying, I know some people say they think the price jump between Gen 2 Plus to Gen 3 is too much, but again, it's personal preference, isn't it? And disposable income. But yeah, let me just show you the pulsar with and without the IR illuminator on, just compared to right. Okay, so the pulsar takes a moment to warm up a bit, but okay, so if I just put that back. Right, so that's the cupboard with, just the webcam. That's the pulsar without the IR illuminator on. So you can see like a coat in there, you can see the Ferromin box, you can see some bags. But, you can't make out that much detail. If I then put the IR light on, hang on, because it's awkward to do this one hand, even though they're meant to be like one-hand operational units. Right, now the IR flashlight is essentially on the front, the inbuilt IR. So with the inbuilt IR look, I don't think you're going to have any issues seeing anything if you just wanted to walk around at night with it mounted to your face with an IR illuminator on. Because obviously a Gen 1 Plus unit with an IR illuminator on is going to see everything fine. It's just some people don't like the idea of using an IR illuminator because I guess to them the idea is that defeats the purpose of night vision. Rob, are you on the Discord? If you are, you can contact him on there. If not, come on a stream in the daytime and he'll normally be on. Which particular one are you on about, 304 Tactical? The Pulsar, which cap has just conveniently fallen off when I put the light on, or my Gen 2 Plus? Right, Pulsars, let's look, because again, I got this under its RRP, but let's have a look, because a lot of night vision I would not pay full price for. Pulsar Challenger GS1X20. On eBay, there's some units at the moment for 320 quid. Some places, yeah, it seems 300 odd quid seems to be the going rate at the moment. Like if I just link you to an eBay seller, and like I said, then you can look around more if you want to, but Was it a knife type thing, Soviet gas mask collector? Because I know they have to be a lot stricter on knife type things now. Like if you buy a bayonet, that would probably happen because of how they changed all the laws on knives over here. But yeah, because I think that's what Hype was saying to Lise, basically, that when I think he personally uses Gen 2 Plus now. I mean, you'd have to confirm if it's still the case, but I know before when he wanted to get a Gen 3, I think he said, for him, it was like, wow, the Gen 3 is a bit better than the Gen 2 Plus, but, for the sake of how much you could resell the Gen 3 for compared to, selling a Gen 2, I think. And that, because when he offered me, a good price for a Gen 3, and the good price for the Gen 2 Plus, I just went for the Gen 2 Plus, because for the price difference, I thought, I'm kind of more interested in the Gen 2 Plus as well because of the tube in it, because it's that Chinese tube you don't see all that often. Oh, so you actually got a 40mm C3. That's very interesting, DF. Right, here's the problem, CQB. Is anybody going to shine a bright flashlight at you? If so, that could damage your night vision, depending on what model it is. Is anybody going to shine an IR thing at you? That could damage it. And could it be damaged by BBs? Apparently, it's really fun to play with them at night, But again, can you risk the damage to your, night vision? Yeah, I can definitely agree with you there, Talise, because for me, it's a bit like that with 1080p and 4K, right? I can see the difference between a 4K image and a 1080p image, but if I wanted to play games, let's say, at 4K, I'd have to buy a 4K monitor, and then I'd have to buy a GPU that could run games at a stable frame rate at 4K. For me, the massive price difference isn't worth it. I will stick with 1080p until 2K or 4K is more affordable. Which one do you mean by Mark IV gas mask? Like the old GSR Mark IV? Or a different model? Yeah, don't get me wrong, CQBT. There are ways you can protect an NVG in Airsoft. I'm just sort of saying, you'd have to weigh all that in. And bear in mind, I don't really play Airsoft. But that's the thing, Scotch, like I'm saying, you can obviously do that, but bear in mind, I've seen people dumb enough not to do that, So what, the World War II GSR? Or do you mean the modern GSR, as in, like the one that was the Scott GSR and now Avon make it? eBay seller in the UK had a load of Avon M50s in, so I bought one. Yeah, because that's the thing I was hearing, Scorch, about people damaging with like IR lasers or whatever, or even if it might not be an IR laser. If you've only got $100 budget 304 tactical, I would go for a 1X sort of digital night vision, which will just be grainy with an IR illuminator, or maybe a Gen 1 plus Soviet unit if you're lucky enough to find one cheap. All right, cheers, Scorch. But yeah, like I said, in the UK, like I say, the problem is where I am, there's not enough places that do airsoft, especially not now Corona's on, so I've not even had to consider this, Right, low budge fudge. Personal preference for the most part. A very good panoramic lens, like this one. Ignore like the dead skin or whatever in it. That's like your best option. A good panoramic lens like that, yeah? Gives you a good field of view. Not much distortion to the image, right? If you don't have a good panoramic, I'd say two separate lenses. It's one of those things where a really good panoramic lens is good, but a kind of low quality panoramic lens is awful. All right, Rajiv. Oh, you're looking at that one? Because I imagine this one is out of frame, isn't it? So you couldn't be looking at a 715. Are you looking at that one, the scimitar, the CDV 750? I've not got a battery in it, but if you want to know what a CDV 750 is, The CDV 750 is a decimeter charger for the decimeter pens. Basically, what you do is you put on a flat surface, you push your pen into that bit, then a light comes on, you dial that to dial it down to 0, then you issue the pen to somebody. It's basically the charger / sort of reset thing for the decimeter pens. Depending on what country you're in, you can probably get that sort of thing, but cheaper buying a different army sort of version of it, because most decimeter pen, you know, it was for charging these basically. The you know, decimeter pens. This one's not actually got a charge in it at the moment. Again, it's not going to show up, is it, on the camera? These are really awkward to show, but basically what you do is you charge one of these on there. Then you'd issue them to somebody and they can look into it and they can say, oh, I know it's charged, it's still at 0 Rontgen. They can say, oh, look, I've absorbed this much radiation. You don't really need to use a VPN very much, not Alex. All you need to do is know which eBay's stuff gets listed on, you know, like ebay.de or whatever, because you're still going to have to put a shipping address in somewhere, aren't you? Even if you use the VPN, if somebody's not going to ship to your country, they're not going to ship to your country. So, for example, if you want to buy, like, here's a good example. ebay.de, the German eBay, can be quite good for finding, like, German surplus, for example. And then if a seller posts, you know, Europe-wide, you can just buy it from them. Yeah, so our Soviet gas mask collector says, if he's on about a World War II GSR, personally, yeah, don't pay more than 50, 60 quid for it, unless it's in really good condition with loads of extra bits. I've not got... Do you mean the Furnez? I've not got a Furnez behind me, but I've got a Furnez somewhere in the house, and that's pretty good, if you can get one for a good price. Alright, I'll get rid of the guy spamming weird shit in the chat. I guess he's trying to make jokes constantly when we're actually trying to have a conversation. What VAT regive on what EU imports, whatever. I can have a look quick, Meow. If it's modelled on a real one, it's probably whatever the US was using at the time Modern Warfare came out. Right, let's have a look. Call of Duty for Night Vision. I keep thinking I'm interested in, you know, the version of the game that came out with night vision. In the Modern Warfare, it looks like those one with the 4 tubes on, whatever they're called. I'm seeing if I can see a picture from the original COD 4 now, because all the stuff coming up isn't the original COD 4. Coming up on Google Images. But the one that I think is at least coming up in some of the pictures is that one that's like got 4 night vision goggles in a row, if you know what I mean. I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's weird because now I'm looking for this thing. I can't see the bloody thing. But it was the S10 was the mask in COD 4, Peach. But yeah, he's on about the night vision. GP NVG 18. Is that the name of it? Right, thank you. Both of you that said that. Let me have a look. Isn't that the one that's in the Insurgency? Yes, that's the one, thank you. I don't know if that was the one he was on about. Well, that was the one I was thinking of. Well, thermals are used in military stuff, but they're good and bad at different things. And yeah, panoramic would make sense in the name, wouldn't it? Because the idea is, yeah, a wilder field of view. You're looking at that thing. That is French riot armor. So basically, do I have something handy to whack it with? Yeah, I do. Hang on. That is French riot armor. So basically it's like plasticky foam stuff that's designed to stop your bones being shattered by, a hard impact. I bought it because it was kind of retro and cool looking. It's like the old, right, Deimos or Demos. But yeah, that's what it was. It was on eBay a while ago. A seller had loads of like the older style French riot armor. Like everybody now just use like plastic shin pad style things, that just sort of segment on. But in the olden days, they had kind of like this kind of netting stuff where it had loads of bits of foam or plastic in. But basically, yeah, there's a video of it being tested where we was probably the combination of the gas mask with like a thing that looks a bit like a HEV suit or whatever. I know what you mean, or the HEV suit, however it's pronounced. But yeah, there's a video where I'm wearing it and I'm getting hit with a bat and that, and it works pretty well. Because the idea is obviously the foam pads spread the force of an impact over the pads, rather than it being a direct impact wherever you get hit. Which one are you on about, OK9? If you're on about the katana, that's got an edge on it. But it's not, the katana's certainly not my favourite sword, but out of all the ones I've got. But I do like the katana more than I thought I would. Yeah, I imagine it's all ITAR protecting. Yeah, 14 grand is a lot for it, isn't it? Personally, I think for 14 grand would be the sort of price where if you were spending that on night vision, you'd probably want a really good thermal for that price, I'd imagine. But yeah, for the person asking earlier, there's ways thermals that can be defeated where image intensifiers can't and vice versa. That's the one, Mike. Which MSA mask? MSA is a company, CQBT. You'd have to specify which particular mask of theirs you're on about. Because isn't it Mining Safety Appliances, MSA? Isn't that what it stands for, MSA, I think? Mining Safety Appliances. So, yeah, they're a company. They've made quite a few masks over the years. Which particular one, KRU? The Gen 2 Plus? I can get back out for you, right. So without the IR illuminator, I'll do it back over there if you want. I'll do it with and without. Okay, so let me just get it focused again using my actual eye. One way turns it on with the illuminator. Right, this is on with the illuminator. That's without, right. Okay, so obviously no night vision. Night vision. Now I'll put the IR illuminator on for you, but it won't make much difference in here, in all honesty. There we go. Right. I might be holding this upside down, but it doesn't really matter. That's with the IR illuminator on. So you'll get a bit more washout on things closer. But so you can see a couple of blems in the tube. That was a reason I was able to get it cheaply. Because there's like, see the blem there? It's over the mirror now. Mirror, poster, mirror, poster. There's a blem there. That was one of the reasons it was reduced. And again, personally, I do not mind getting, essentially a night vision way, way, way cheaper than its RRP because of some blems on the tube. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, if you're somewhere, KRU, where there's no obviously natural light, you'll notice it a lot more. Now, actually, the pulsar, you'll notice it a lot more because it's a Gen 1 Plus, so obviously it doesn't amplify light as well. So yeah, let me get this one. So, and finally on switch. Right. So the pulsar, that's, if I can get that in frame, probably it's harder with this one because it's lower resolution. There we go. So that's without the IR illuminator on. And then that's with the IR illuminator on. So as you can see, it makes a massive difference on the Gen 1 Plus unit. But with the little bit of light in this room anyway, a Gen 2 Plus really does not need an IR illuminator on. Ooh, I can get that background there. All right, Stug. Which particular monocular are you on about, Talise? Because yeah, the one I got, the Chinese one, I got a really good price on, but as I said, I've been told not to disclose the price of it, just because it was done on a better rate for me, because you know I've got a YouTube channel and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, but again, one thing I would recommend to people is if you ever see like slight factory reject NVG tubes and they're like half the price or whatever more, it's worth considering if you know what the defect is. Because again, if it's literally a little blemish on the tube, but it massively lowers the price, if you don't seriously care about a little blemish, it makes it, you know, a lot more. It won't let you link them, DF, but you can mention what the site is. Ah, cool, Soviet gas mask collector. Yeah, IP5s, they're not so much heavy for the other person asking, not Alex. It's more they're just bulky. Cool. If you've talked to him till he's, yeah, that's fine. But yeah, just don't say to anybody else what the price is, because he asked me not to, you know, let people know when he does stuff for me for better prices. You know, he says I can let people know he gave me a good price for it, but he doesn't like people knowing exactly what, you know, he charged me for it. Yeah, Stug. What's really cool about the PNV 57s is apparently Hype was saying they have one of the best IR spectrums out of any of the old night vision units, especially because the A was designed just to see IR light. So if you get an IR flashlight and just put it on top of, you know, the tanker cap, you could probably see perfectly well with the 57A as long as it throws the light out far enough. Because, you know, like funny asymmetric stuff is apparently some of the modern IR stuff the US developed to be only seen with their Gen 3 plus night vision. Apparently the PNV 57A can see it fine because, you know, it had such a wide IR spectrum, which is quite funny, isn't it? That, you know, you invent like some super tactical gear, but old Soviet gear can see it because it had like such a wide range of stuff it did. Sadly not. I don't have any modern Russian stuff. The only Russian helmet I've got that's modern is this one. And this is a riot helmet. But yeah, that's the only modern Russian helmet I've got. I don't have any like modern Atlin helmets, whatever they're called. I'd like some, but again, I've never seen them for good money. Yeah, Tilly's. That's what I'm saying. That's why if the person who's said he might be able to send me one for free just to keep to mess about with for videos does send me one for free, I'd be perfectly happy to do a load of IR experiments with the 57A. It's quite interesting, isn't it, the idea that, you know, you've got such an old night vision unit that has such a wide visible spectrum. That makes sense, Doug. But yeah, if you've done that, then yeah, you can probably see fine. If you want to, Stug, it's not ideal. If you set the PMV 57A to the 12 volt, not the 24 volt mode, it will power from a 9 volt battery. So, you know, just a standard 9 volt, the little square batteries, PM57As and E's will power from a 9 volt if you crop clip them on. Yeah, it's quite an interesting idea, Tilly's. Yeah, because that's the thing. I'd like the idea of getting some sort of IR flashlight because it's got the tanker helmet bit with it, just like clipping that on because you can do that really easily. Because I did that when I was using the E, and then I never needed the IR light with it. But yeah, like I said, it would be if the person who's offering me one for free ever gets some, because they were basically saying, you know, if they get a load of them, I think in bulk, they will just send me one for free because, you know, but I didn't really want to pay too much for a 57A because obviously a lot of people price them like they're image intensifiers when they're really not. But, you know, because I think a lot of people don't really know the difference between the A and the E. But I would like an A for shits and giggles, you know, seeing what it does. But what do you mean? How would NVGs look through a helmet like that? NVGs would. Do you mean like how close can you get it to your eye with a riot helmet? That works then. So yeah, what you've got 8 D cells, so that's 8 times 1.5. So yeah, that makes 12 volts, doesn't it? Yeah. So use rechargeable D cell, save yourself a load of money. Yeah, that works. But yeah, like I said, at least the Soviet stuff generally works on stuff like 12 volts or, common voltages, unlike a load of really old Western Geiger counters that needed something like 100 volts worth of batteries in. But yeah, there's lots of ways of doing it. But yeah, the more interesting one for the person asking it is if you see a helmet like this through a thermal. That's where it gets more interesting. Because this is where it looks weird, because I think this will block the thermal's vision. Let's have a look. Yep, see that? Yeah, so that's more interesting, is that the Riot helmet with a thermal, the helmet blocks the thermal's view through it. So if I just do it on, the white IR, the famous IR. Hang on, there you go. Yep, see, so the visor with a thermal, the visor completely blocks the view from the thermal. Yeah, so unless you're really into Soviet equipment, I would say for the price, you can get a lot cooler things than the E. Don't get me wrong, the E is fucking cool as shit, right? Because it's a tanker helmet with really good Gen 1 Plus stuff on, but again, it's what you want is playing. Yeah, you could. That's the thing. I've seen loads of demonstration videos where people show that, the problem is with FLIR type stuff is that you can literally get, a sheet of plastic or glass, like you say, in a riot shield. Thank you very much, Doug. You can stand behind it with the shield out, and yeah, the IR can't see you. Because that's one of the problems. You can't see through windows with IR like that. Yeah, it does, Talise. It's because, isn't it? Because of it's like because they have to use a very special type of glass, like germanium, don't they? In the like FLIR kind of cameras, because with thermals, regular glass blocks too much of the heat IR spectrum. So yeah, if you look at windows, it's the same thing as like plastic or like my glasses, for example. It just becomes a solid color for the most part because it just reflects too much of the IR heat sort of view back. Yeah, but as we were saying, you don't need 10 just because it doesn't need to be exactly 12 volts because, like I was saying, a 9-volt battery powers the PNVs fine. Like saying, ideally, yeah, you are correct there that most rechargeable batteries are 1.2, not 1.5 volts. But I found in nearly everything that is meant to run on whatever, the rechargeable ones run it fine. Because it doesn't seem that the 0.3 voltage difference is enough, really. I guess that's because most stuff is expected that the batteries won't ever be fully, up to the 1.5 volts. Because if you ever put a multimeter on a load of old batteries, you'll see that most of them never get to the voltage they're meant to. But yeah, you are correct in what you say there, but I don't think he will, even if he puts rechargeables in, I don't think he actually will need to, because like I was saying, I've run a PNV 57 E on a 9-volt. It ran better on a 12-volt. It was a bit brighter, but you don't really need to. I think with a lot of those things, there seems to be a minimum amount of voltage before they turn on, and then there's like the optimum voltage for running them. eBay always where I get stuff from. For the people saying how much was that night vision, how much is this night vision, where do I buy night vision? Look at eBay, I'd say mostly, and try and get somebody selling one that's very good condition secondhand generally. And thank you very much, Hyland. As in what, like the 4A1 and that? I've got the 4A1 and I've got the M15. They're the only two Israeli masks I've got, if you're on about Shalom Rubber or whatever they're called. Yeah, they did do that, Stug, for sure. I have seen those on, like, different model of Soviet helmets, but I think the standard thing always was the tanker helmet. You legally can Soviet gas mask collector, but it might cost you a bit. With British law, you can buy a lot of this stuff and own it as long as it's below a certain activity level, and some of those levels can be quite a lot higher than you'd expect. All right, see you, Richard. I'll be off in a minute. My throat's gone quite dry. That's interesting, Dr. Tea Cake. But yeah, there's a few places in the UK Soviet gas mask collector that will sell you legally, and I mean properly legally, like they're like science suppliers, cesium, cobalt samples and all the things like that of quite good activity levels, but they want a lot of money for it. We're talking like 600 to maybe £1,000, where, if you know an old Geiger counter, for example, that contained a very active check source, quite often that's a way cheaper way of doing it. But yeah, what's actually illegal in the US replay value? If you're on about radioactive stuff, it's not. In the US, you can actually buy from quite a few sites that are certified stuff that's let me link you to one of the places that something like Imasco, isn't it? One of the things called US radioactive stuff. Let me just search US radioactive samples because I can never remember the actual exact site. There's a few that do it. But yeah, you can get the samples that are basically called... it is Image SCO. Yeah, there you go. Here's the license-free ones. So if anybody thinks in the US these are illegal, these are not. In the US, you can buy quite strong sources of certain types. Some of these sites will ship to the UK, but the shipping can be an arm and a leg as well. Well, they're certainly effective, comrade. They're not the exact same models as the US ones, but, they work for their intended purpose, but they have quite a short expiry date on them. No, weirdly, John of all trades, riot helmets, you can just buy a surplus online here. Doesn't it depend on the sample, inductive tea cake, though? Because I've noticed some samples have really different things. I've looked at the UK one, inductive tea cake, and basically you have to dig through a load of the government websites, and then you find eventually a Becquerel activity chart for each thing, and like how much you can go up to without a license, and then like this type of license and that. I'm gonna have to stop soon because my throat's getting really dry, but yeah, that's the point. That is, I think, like the US and the UK kind of have the thing of you can have a sample up to this activity, but again, when I've had to deal with the police with it before, it's more, are you keeping your sample safely? Okay, do you know how to handle them? Okay, all that. All right, cool, you're safe to have them. There is, if they're over a certain power, Soviet gas mask collector. It's essentially so random sheds can't be full of nuclear material, I think is the logic. That, the idea is that they have to keep renewing the licenses. I've not got a tritium compass or a watch, but I've got some tritium actual stuff, like the file markers and that. But anyway, I'll be off now because my throat's gone really dry. I mean, like, uncomfortably dry. But yeah, thank you everybody that's come on the stream. Thank you to all the people that donated as well. I'll probably do a members stream tomorrow if it works, because they don't always work. Right. It will depend, firstly... Right, I'll answer you... Oh, cool. Oh, I'll do that at some point, Andy. Thank you. And yeah, just to answer inductive tea cake before I go on off. Firstly, it depends on the courier, because I know some couriers specify they won't transport radioactive materials, and some say like up to certain levels, But from my experience, I've bought off of eBay like radium, like compasses and things like that, which are quite seriously radioactive, even before you open them, if you put a Geiger next to them, and have never had any issues. So I think it more comes down to which courier is being used and do they even bother screening. Again, there's lots of stuff where there's a line between grey areas. A lot of the time I think it's just being sensible with stuff, And again, it takes a few idiots, doesn't it, to ruin it for everybody. So I have got some water here. The issue is that if you drink water, it sometimes makes you feel thirstier. Right, anyway, I'll be off now. Have a good evening, everybody. Goodbye.